Welcome, everybody, to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest-running sales training podcast history. My name is Bryan, Neale.
My name is Bill Caskey.
We are here every week. Glad you are here and joining us. It's been a long road, the old Advanced Selling Podcast.
Long and winding road.
Winding road. Who sings that? That's Beatles.
Beatles.
Right? Yeah. But hey, if you're new here, welcome. Glad you found us. We're glad we found you. And we got a couple programs. Number one, join our LinkedIn group. There's like 12,000-ish, 13,000 people in the LinkedIn group. Lots of smart people there. More importantly, you need to be a part of our insider program, a little live coaching program with my good friend Bill Caskey every first Friday of every month. Fantastic topics, fantastic group. Sometimes even a guest lecturer like there was last week, Scott Snowden, friend of the show, friend of the firm. Great guy.
He's a friend of all of us. I mean, he really is friendly. He's a super friendly guy and smart as a whip.
Yes. And very, very smart. Great at what he does, especially on the story thing, and a very wonderful Canadian dude.
Speaking of Canadian, man,
was that seriously?
You did not even know what I was going to talk about.
I had no idea.
And you just threw an underhanded pitch to me.
I mean, that's what happens when you've been doing this long. You think for each other.
Finally,
you're welcome, Bill.
You're welcome. Didn't even plan that. Do you ever go on like a listening binge to like music from maybe your childhood? Like
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
And you go down the path, and before you know it, you're deep cut into an album that never sold any because you just. Well, I did that with a guy that just died this week. His name is Gordon Lightfoot.
Yes.
And he is Canadian.
Yes.
And so when you mentioned Scott, and apparently they had they honored him at the Toronto Maple Leafs playoff game here last week. And he was 84 years old. For those of you who don't know who he is, just go look up Gordon Lightfoot. He was an awesome singer, storyteller, guitar player, arranger, lyricist. I mean, he was just really good. And you would recognize some of his music if you could read my mind, the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And he had probably a dozen songs that were really good. And then if you really got into his voice, which he had a very distinctive voice, you could go deep cut. But do you ever do that? Just like, oh my God, I was 3 hours on Sunday.
I mean, without question, I do it probably more than I even realize that I do it, for sure. And it tends to go in what you said. So it tends to go in, what do you want to call it? Well, order. So I think these songs are stored in parts of your brain, if that makes sense. So like Gordon Lightfoot for me was like, I was 5 to 7 years old when his songs were out. And there was there's a love song era there. And the Edmund Fitzgerald was one of the first, like really popular, probably not first, but storytelling song about a thing. And you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm huge. So I do that all the time. And then I'll go, you go into like high school, then you go into like hair bands and then your prom songs.
Casey and the Sunshine Band, you go deep on them. Yeah. And then you try to go deep on something that like, something that's a one-hit wonder, like, oh, remember that song? And then you think, I came up dry. That's the only song.
Yes. Can I actually play something for you here, Bill?
If we don't get in trouble.
We'll see. I don't know if I can play this or not. Is this going to play? I don't hear it playing. You hear that?
Oh, yeah. That's a Sundown.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
But listen to it.
It's not coming through the Roadcaster, though, is it?
Wasn't I? Not cool.
I can't
hear it very well?
No, I can't hear it.
Oh, well.
Is it the riff on Sundown, and then it's a...
Yeah. It's a producer named shit. Okay. Maybe we'll take it out. Yeah. Anywho, yes, I go down that path. We love Gordon Lightfoot.
It is
our topic.
It is fun. Topic today is this idea of how do you get to the higher level person inside your client or prospect company. And a lot of times we don't start there, even though we should. And it's great when the CEO, Bryan, calls you and says, hey, I've got a team. We've got 3 VPs of sales and 17 salespeople. I want to talk about that's great. But for a lot of people who listen, that doesn't happen because often the CEO is not that involved in your thing. So if you're Larry Ellison running Oracle, you're probably not going to call a company about a $5,000 investment because it's just too small for you. You've got people that do that. But in a lot of our clients, and I'm sure yours too, we do need to have some input and perspective from the CEO. And I thought it was a good topic because it came up in some corporate work I did the other day where they close 80% of the deals where they talk to the CEO and 20% of the deals they don't. So it's a 4X improvement. And so the question is, why is that? The question is, how do we get to the CEO or to this top level person? I've got a couple of thoughts, but I wanted to get your feedback, see if you think that's a topic worth addressing.
I think it's a great topic. It's a timeless topic. It's been around forever. There's a book written, Selling to Veto? Is that what it's called? Very Important Top Officer. There's a book written in the 90s or 2000? When was Selling to Veto written? Anyway,
90s.
This has been a thing. Now I do, and I'm super strong on this. I think I've said this in the podcast before. I think you agree with this, Bill, that I do not endorse the concept of decision maker singular at all. I'm vehemently against that concept. And that's not what you're saying here. You're not saying, how do I get to the decision maker? You're saying, how do I include or engage the C-level person in the process? Just want to make sure that everyone hears when we're talking about this. We're not talking about, well, if I go to the CEO, I sell to the CEO. No, you don't. You sell to the group in this process. So
I don't think that's inconsequential either, though. What you just said is that we have to get away, and I know most of us have, because if you've been listening, you know that we don't believe in the decision maker. So rarely it is, but most of you are in business to business, and what's the average of 6.5 people who are involved in a business to business decision today? So if you're calling on one, you ain't there. You're not calling on enough.
No. 1994 was when Selling to Veto was written, by the way.
Okay.
Which I believe is almost 30 years, correct?
Yes.
So people are still, and I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but it's like,
no, I know.
30 years old, man. Right.
So during my discussion with this client, I said, because they relayed this statistic that 80% of the time, 20% of the time. And I said, why do you need to get in front of the CEO? Why? I mean, I know from your standpoint, it increases your closing percent 4X, but why, from the customer's standpoint, why is it important you speak to these other people? And the young man who was doing it cobbled together one thing and couldn't come up with any more. And the president of the company chimed in and had a couple of things, and a couple other people chimed in, but there was no real attitude about why is this good for them for us to talk to the CEO. And I thought we call it 5 reasons or 7 reasons or whatever. And so if you're struggling either with having people follow your sales process when they may want to follow their buying process, or getting to the CEO or a top level person when they would prefer to do that internally. No, that's okay, Bryan. I'll take it to the CEO. Don't worry about it. They really trust me. Yeah. Okay. Right. Or anything in the process where you're looking for a change from the way they typically do things. I think you have to have reasons why. You have to have a documented. Here are the 5 reasons or 3 that I need, that it's good for you if I talk to your CEO.
Yeah. That's brilliant. And first of all, that's what we always forget. We forget, why is it valuable to them? I love the idea of documenting a sales process in a why, what, how, and who framework. Why, what, how, and who. So if I have 4 stages to my sales process, I give a why for every stage, a what it is. So it's, fleshing out the idea, and then how it's done. So it's done in 2 30-minute meetings, and who's involved on both sides. And that becomes a document, a 1-page document. We're working really hard on this for our clients to help them build this, and for ourselves right now, is that to be able to show that in one document. And once you show that in one document, that's your process. It's kind of like flying an airplane. The guy who's flying you on United Airlines doesn't like one day go, you know what? I don't think I'm going to check the landing gear today. Right. I'm sure it's fine. They don't do that. They're not allowed to. They have to follow the process. So the first thing I think we have to get real with, this is a good math question, Bill. If their closing percentage is 80% with and 20% without, and they require that as a step, what do they give up? like mathematically,
Mhm.
that your client should just make it a rule. Because I think the math is in their favor, that what they're going to lose versus what they're going to gain is
But what
monumental.
they'll lose is some people will say no.
Exactly. But they're going to say no. 80% of them are going to
There's
say
a
no
20%
anyway.
chance they're going to change that.
Yes. So it's like, I'd much rather go, I spend all my time with 80s.
Yeah, the 80, not
right?
the 20.
And none of my time with the 20s. And so when the people say, sorry, I'm going to take it to my CEO, say, no problem, I'm going to tap out then. And just stop the process and move on. With that math, that dramatic, and that's to me a really big number. If they have that reality, then it's a hard rule. They do not do a process unless the C-level person is involved.
Right. And that is what we're doing and working on. However, I bet you that if you took a poll from all of our listeners, that 80-20 number is probably not that far off.
Right. Oh, right. Yes.
For everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you are in search of talking to other people, we'll call it the CEO, but it doesn't have to be, because some companies, Fortune 100 company, you're probably not going to get there. But there are people inside the company who you want to be speaking with. Come up with why.
Yes.
Come up with and I like Bryan's why, what, who, what is it? Why, what, how? Why, what, how?
Why, what, how, and what? Why, what, how, and who?
Yeah.
You can rearrange them if you want.
But start with the why. So why is it good for them?
Yes.
Why is it good for them for you to talk to these other important people? Yep. And I think the president of this company, he sent me an email like an hour after our call. He had put into Chat GPT the question, and
so good.
And Chat spit out 6 reasons the CEO, six things the CEO is concerned with, and then you have to decide if those 6 things, any of them are pertinent to you, and maybe only 4 are. In that case, you would, delete the 2. But the point there is, if it's not in writing, it's not in belief. True. If you write it down and you rehearse it and you really believe it, you really believe it's in their best interest, it'll be easy to tap out if they say no.
Yes, easy. And just think about documenting this, and then it's saying, okay, so then step 2, you do the why, so we do the step 2 for 2 things: strategic alignment and financial prioritization. So number 1, we want to make sure that what you're asking us to help you with, I'm the salesperson now, what you're asking us to help with is to align strategically with the big picture and make sure that financially this is where resources should be put. So we need the CFO involved in that, the CEO, and the director of the division. And that's it. That's what you say. And like, well, sorry, we're not going to get the CEO fee. Yeah. CFO. No, we're going to, say, well, that's part of our process. So we can just, either press pause until we can make that happen. Or if we can't, we totally get it. It means that much to us that we'll actually tap out of the process if we can't. No big deal.
And it's all done with the intention of giving you the best possible outcome and results from this work that we're about to do. So you have to keep in mind, this is not just about you. You have to sink into your heart there the belief that if I don't do this, they're going to get a less than solution.
Yes.
If I do this and they agree to it, they're going to get a spot on high value solution. So this is all about them. It's nothing about you, even though the numbers are beneficial.
Yes. Well, that's why the numbers to me are beneficial, was because when you get that information, you line up with the right deals at the right time. The right money. It just does. It just lines up, and you still lose 20% of them, which you probably should, because those things don't check. Like strategically, this is not where we shouldn't be putting our money and time and effort into sales coaching right now. We should be putting it into our production facility. Yeah. Because we can't. Okay, cool. Right. We're out. They're one of the 20% that say no. Or they shouldn't. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
I'm sorry. So from a sales person for our listeners, I think Bryan brings up a good point there. And that is that you've got to look at your assets. And one asset is time. Mm-hmm. Time, energy, effort. And it's easy to say, well, at least I'll have a 20% chance. They could, but you're going to spend a lot of time with the other 80% who you're not talking to, and you will never get that back. You never, ever will get that back. And I'm much older than you. As I get older, that's a really important part. And to be honest, I don't care how old you are. If you're 30 or 22, you will not get the time you spent on the 80 hours pursuing something. It was never going to happen because you weren't talking to the CEO. So you've got to get right mentally. I just had email just while we were on break here about from a client and this exact thing. And he said, I just got the go ahead on a deal, and it's because the CEO was involved. And it was that point in the process where it's all on the line, where you have to say to your contact, look, here's the reason we insist upon talking to the CEO. And if you can't do this, or if he or she doesn't want to, I understand, but I've got to tap out. And he did that. And the person said, well, yeah, I think I can make that happen. And CEO was awesome. He says, oh my God,
Totally.
I wish I would have known this dude. He's just an awesome guy. And they did it. And CEO just said, let's get it done. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened if you wouldn't have done that. So we have to believe in our own heart it's best for them.
Truth. That's so important. And then Bill used some words too. We've talked about this language set before in the podcast of we want is their perspective. We want their input. We want their point of view. Even using I like the even slight change on the word sometimes, because a lot of people go down this path, and we've said, even just talking about it here, this talk to the versus engage or enroll the in the process. So instead of talk to the CEO, I want to enroll the CEO in the process. I want to engage the CEO in the process so I can get her, take her opinion, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So
include.
Show.
I use the word include a lot today because it's a hot.
Use their perspective. Inclusion. We like it. Include the CEO. We're inclusion of the C-suite in our sales process.
Easy.
Yeah. Great though. So good. It's such a good topic. And people don't know. Now we don't have much time left on this episode. There's another reason I think salespeople struggle with this that's deeper and within them is I think deep down salespeople are uncomfortable in a conversation with a C-level person.
Yeah.
And they then have easy resistance to any resistance from the customer. So if I'm intrinsically not comfortable to talk to a C-level person, and you're my buyer, Bill, and I say, hey, we really want to enroll the CEO, and you say, well, she's not really going to be involved much in this process, so we won't be able to make that happen. I'll go, okay, no problem, I understand. Because inside, I don't feel comfortable talking to her because she's a C-level person. If I feel this won't work if you don't feel comfortable talking to C-level people and engaging with them and asking them strategic questions.
Totally agree.
Got to check yourself there first.
So how does one get comfortable? Well, one does it by doing it. But
that's it.
But I think if you understand what are the 5 primary roles of a CEO in most businesses, and how does your solution or the problems you solve relate to any one of those, and you map out a call and you interview a couple of CEOs, interview your own CEO.
Yes.
And say, look, I'm going to present it this way. Tell me what are some of the things I should be thinking about? What are you paying attention to? CEOs are paying attention to the high level stuff, but I guarantee you there's something you do that connects with that high level stuff.
No doubt.
So just don't find yourself saying, well, he didn't care about that. Oh, he might, or she might. Right. And they might care about it more than you think because it impacts something that they pay attention to every day.
Yes. And your client had this experience. They met to the CEO. The guy was great. Like, what do we expect? You expect him to be like an a-hole and mean and stuff like that, and mysterious and like, no, you don't get to be a CEO usually.
No.
If you're a jerk.
They're always great. I mean, almost always. Now they may be bottom line, they may be indignant, they may be short, but I kind of like that because I can deal with that. And
I also believe none of them have anything figured out. Everyone thinks there's like this magic book that a CEO reads on how to run a company. They have no idea what they're doing. I'm telling you, they don't. And so Bill's right. You got it. You have them in your hip pocket. You have your own C-suite, your own CEO, CFO, COO that you can call, ask for advice. Then you have your like first tier tight relationships, could be a relative, best clients. Yep. And you go and you say, hey, I'm looking for some advice. I'm getting into more conversations with CFOs. And I just want to like talk to you over lunch and say, I just want to hear, what do you think about what matters? What do CFOs, believe in? How can I, roll through a conversation and, stay connected to a CFO? They'll tell you, they're like, here's what you should, and they'll say what their pet peeves are. Don't come in here pretending like you know how to read a, financial balance sheet. Salespeople try to pretend they can and they can't. They get found out.
Don't try to explain EBITDA.
Yeah, right.
You get lost.
You should hear Warren Buffett explain EBITDA and Charlie Munger. It's really
I heard. Did you
see that? Did you see that?
That. So it was really good.
And EBITDA. Charlie Munger's like, no.
He's 100 almost.
He is so funny.
Okay, so let us know in the comments on LinkedIn when we post this up what you got from this.
Yeah.
Just remember that anytime you're trying to change the process to help the customer, you might need to have the why behind that. And if you do, and you can articulate that effortlessly and efficiently, I think you're going to have a lot of people say, okay, well, now I understand. Well, sure, that makes sense. Well, sure, Bob,
Yes.
that makes sense. I'll do that. So I think it'll help you a lot.
Always have the why.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right.
Good stuff. Good one.
See
All
you
right.
next time.
Bye.
Bye.